Kotek's departure comes at a critical time in the legislature, Jim, since the high-stakes 2022 short session starts in February. The announcement that she would be resigning before the February session came as a surprise to many. Why do you think she did this before session?
I think she did it so that, A, she could raise money during the session. Remember, under Oregon law, you can't raise money for your Oregon political campaign if you're in the legislature while the legislature is going. So it does that. The second thing is it's time for her to get her gubernatorial campaign really focused. You know, the filing deadline is only about 5 or 6 weeks from now. The campaign itself needs to be starting right now. So that's where she needs full time to spend her attention right now. And then the third thing is, I'm sure that she has arranged it and planned with people so that she's pretty confident they'll have a successful short session moving forward with the big thing she would want to push.
She was speaker for a long time, Jim, as you know. What's the impact on losing someone like that?
Well, it gets rid of institutional memory, even though Peter Courtney, who's been president of the Senate twice as long as Tina Kotek was speaker, is still on the other side of the building for another year. So it gets rid of that institutional memory. But the second thing is it also gets rid of somebody who really understands how to make the legislature work. You know, when I talk to people who've been speaker in the past, they come in and they say, you know, I was a lieutenant to the speaker. I knew how the speaker did things. And then when they had to make the decisions, then it became a much more complex thing. She mastered that and has been the master of it for the past 8-9 years. So that's gone out of the building as well.
In the soundbite we heard at the beginning of the program from Tina Kotek, she said jobs were the #1 priority in the 2012 legislative session. 10 years later, how central do you think, Jim, jobs will be in her run for governor now?
I think it's going to be pretty central. And the reason is, even though our economy is much better now than it was back in 2012, people are still really nervous in this COVID economy. People have jobs, people are doing better than they've been doing in a while, but we're remembering a year ago, 18 months ago, when people were losing jobs just right and left. And so there's a nervousness out there that I think is going to be a major issue as we go through this entire election season. So she's going to be echoing many of the things she talked about basically 10 years ago.
Although the full House still needs to vote on a new speaker, Democrats have selected Representative Dan Rayfield of Corvallis to fill that position. What does the selection of Rayfield tell you, Jim, about the direction of the Oregon House?
Well, it says that the Oregon House wants to go in a progressive direction. Rayfield is known as being more on the progressive side than the centrist side. It also is important to me they're selecting somebody who, like Tina Kotek, knows the nuts and bolts of government. And why does he know the nuts and bolts? He's been in the Ways and Means Committee for a long time and chaired it for a number of years. That's where the rubber meets the road in the legislative process of getting money into programs. He knows those. And then a third thing that's going to be really important, he isn't from Portland. In the legislature forever, there's been a real issue of, does Portland run the legislature? Because so many legislative members are from the Portland area. That's where the population is. He's from Corvallis. That is a strong Democratic message saying we want leadership that is from outside the Portland area that can speak to and lives where the rest of the state lives. So Dan Rayfield has a lot going for him as he goes into this. And then also one more thing, as the member of the leader of the Ways and Means Committee, he also got the respect of a lot of Republicans who respected the way that he was able to work with them to get through these rather complex budgetary issues that came up.
Let's go to national politics now, Jim. President Biden finished his first full year in office last week. As a political science professor and analyst, what kind of grade would you give President Biden for his first year?
Well, if I were a Republican political analyst, I'd give him a C- to a D. And if I were a Democratic political analyst, I'd give him a B to B+. I'm a down the middle of political analyst. I'd give him a C+, B-. He accomplished a lot of things. The infrastructure bill, he got money out to people when they really needed it as the COVID economy was collapsing around us. He did things like that really helped a lot of people. But he also didn't accomplish a lot of things. We're basically still looking at the Build Back America, the act that is still kind of wandering around there. There's issues with voting rights. All those kinds of things are still works in progress. So he's doing okay. He needs to do better. And in his press conference last week, he actually gave a really interesting reason why he thinks he didn't do as well as he did. He said, you know, I've got to stop governing like another senator and start governing more like a president. And that's something that a lot of people who are legislators who become executives, governors or presidents have to deal with. It's good that Joe Biden realizes that's an issue and will go forward trying to fix that. That I think could help him a lot as he goes into the second year.
In that televised news conference last week, a reporter asked him if he overpromised to the American public what he could achieve in his first year in office. The president said he didn't overpromise and he probably outperformed what anybody thought would happen. What do you think about that statement?
Well, I think he absolutely did overpromise, but remember, he was promising when it wasn't clear what the Senate was going to be. It took those two special elections in Georgia for the Democrats to have a 50-50 Senate, and with Kamala Harris, be able to have a majority in the Senate. So Joe Biden on the campaign trail could promise whatever he wanted. If it was a Republican Senate, hardly any of that would have taken place. He got a Democratic Senate, and so he did not meet what he promised, because that was kind of an ideal world, but he got about 45-50% of what he promised done. The thing is, when we do scorecards, people look at what didn't happen rather than what did happen, and that's what he needs to overcome right now. It's hard to do.
The president is facing significant challenges like low approval ratings, his agenda getting stalled in Congress. Did this news conference help or hurt him, Jim?
You know, with voters, I don't think it makes much difference at all. In D.C., I think it helps him. It galvanizes Democrats. What they like what they're hearing from him, and speeches he's given in the last couple of weeks where he's come out and really said, look, we need to move forward. It's that acting presidential rather than acting like just another senator. Is it going to move things in Washington, D.C.? I don't think so, because it just drives the Republicans into more of a defensive posture. It makes the Democrats say, gosh, we got to change things. And it's up to the voters in November 2022 to tell us exactly what the makeup of the next Senate and the next House of Representatives will be. Still, at this point, it looks good for the Republicans to take majorities in at least one and probably both of those houses.
You outdid yourself on the tie today. I just want to tell you that.
Thank you very much. Getting a little blue in there with, you know, the squares and everything else.
It's a good combination. Jim, as always, we appreciate your insight into local and national politics. You take care.
You too.
Thank you.